Today on Notsam Wrestling, Sami Zayn moves to SmackDown. LA Knight moves to Raw. Should Drew McIntyre win the WWE Championship? When will MJF win the AEW Championship? Triplemania gets us all talking and so much more. This is Notsam Wrestling. Welcome to Notsam Wrestling. With so much to talk about today, I think we have to start with Triplemania. So Triplemania, you know, the spectacular from AAA over the weekend. This is the 33rd Triplemania. However, the first with AAA under the WWE's umbrella. And we all saw that there was a significant level of awareness raised for AAA and what AAA does when the first Worlds Collide special came on. That was the same during the day, on the same day that Money in the Bank was happening there in Los Angeles. Of course, the announcement was made over the weekend that another Worlds Collide show was coming to Las Vegas in September. But this is like the first sort of AAA extravaganza. Worlds Collide, of course, was a throwback to When Worlds Collide, which was something AAA. That is a Freudian slip. AAA, now Triple H. But AAA was involved in 94 that WCW put on pay-per-view. But since WWE and Triple H came in, Worlds Collide was really kind of an event put together so that the WWE audience would maybe get a little bit more familiar with AAA, start to see what they have to offer, and whether or not that might be something that interests the WWE audience. And I feel like that was a grand success and led right in to Triplemania. And I was very happy to realize on Sunday, going into Monday here, that it is something that people are talking about coming out of the weekend. You know, between the three YouTube channels, so they aired it on WWE's YouTube channel. WWE has an Espanol YouTube channel that they aired it on as well with Spanish commentary. And they also aired it on AAA's YouTube channel live. And I mean, within less than 24 hours of it being on, between the three, it had gotten over 5 million views. I know on the official WWE YouTube channel, it was hovering right around 250,000 concurrent viewers basically the whole time, which is massive numbers for YouTube. And just looking at it, the fact that like Worlds Collide did such massive numbers back in June, and now this Triplemania show is doing these big YouTube numbers, it does lead me to believe that there may be a play to put, like, because with the ESPN deal, it's taking the WWE PLEs, but it's not taking the NXT PLEs. It's certainly not taking AAA PLEs, and it's not taking the library either. So I don't know if there's a world where these PLEs still exist on Peacock, but the WWE ones do not. Or, you know, as I was watching this on YouTube, and I kind of couldn't believe how seamless it was, not because, you know, I'm unfamiliar with how technology works, but just because I usually don't do it this way. I just opened the YouTube app on my Apple TV and just clicked it on and watched it, and I ended up watching the entire PLE, and at no point did I really take into account what app it was on. It just worked. So I feel like based on the numbers that it got, I wouldn't be surprised if AAA stays on YouTube, but also maybe NXT PLEs end up on YouTube, and maybe that's a good thing, you know, because not only can they be monetized, and not only do they result in being good traffic conductors for the rest of the WWE's YouTube channel, but also just the pure eyeballs. If you're trying to get people over to the CW to watch NXT, you want people involved. Maybe they don't watch NXT every week, but, you know, they're on YouTube, and the WWE's YouTube channel is saying, hey, Heatwave is going to be on YouTube. I'll click it, I'll watch it, and all of a sudden you're invested in these characters. I mean, that's the way it's worked with AAA, right? That, like, you know, I don't think Mr. Iguana was a household name the way he is now, at least in wrestling households, before Worlds Collide, before the WWE kind of put that spotlight on it. I thought that it was a tremendously well-produced show. It was clearly a WWE-produced show. I thought Corey Graves did an excellent job leading that commentary booth. I thought JBL was great, and the fact that we had Conan in there as well. I thought with the three of them, it sounded really good. I thought JBL had some great. There was two one-liners that I really liked. I enjoyed when he said that the Micro Man had good hand-to-foot combat instead of hand-to-hand combat. I thought that was very funny, hand-to-foot combat. And when he compared Dominic Mysterio to Nelson Mandela and what they had both done for their respective communities upon getting out of jail, I thought that was brilliant as well. And then Conan being there as kind of the voice with the most credibility when it comes to AAA, especially on the same night that he's getting inducted into the AAA Hall of Fame. I thought it was great, but I also, this is the most important thing. More important than how well was the show produced, more important than the commentary, to an extent, more important than even the results. It was fun. The show was fun. I think that's why people are leaving that show talking about it. I think that's why there's a heightened interest in AAA that maybe wasn't there before. WWE was able to get their fans who don't maybe watch a lot outside of WWE into what AAA was doing. Hey, there's some really fun shows going on here. And that was my kind of big takeaway from Triplemania, was that it was a fun show. It was a fun show to watch on a Saturday night. Get some food, turn it on. Everybody's got it because everybody's got YouTube. I didn't have any ads because I got YouTube Premium. I don't know if there are ads, if it's not, I have no idea. But it was just fun, I thought that opening the night with that Rumble, and again, going back to that word fun, it was one of the funnest Rumbles that I've seen in a long time. It was shorter and quicker than a standard Royal Rumble, allowing pins in there as well, which are the rules of the match that allowed Micro Man to get an elimination. But I thought, I think people were waiting for some things. People were waiting to see what the WWE did with the new La Parka. So La Parka, this is not the same La Parka as came out on Nitro. This is not the same La Parka as was the chairman of WCW in, 1998, 1999. And that's a thing that they do in Lucha, is like these gimmicks are passed down through people. Sometimes in a way that everybody accepts, and sometimes in a way that is a little more hostile. But regardless, a lot of times companies will retain ownership of gimmicks, the same way WWE did with Fake Razor and Fake Diesel. But the audience kind of understands it's happening and allows it, because it's people under a mask, allows it to kind of be an evolution of that character in a lot of ways. And La Parka is one of those people. So, I mean, it goes back to, Mystico and Sin Cara and that whole thing. When Sin Cara, who was the original Mystico, came to WWE, somebody else started playing Mystico, and there's a whole, and then, Sin Cara, the original Mystico, leaves, goes on to become a new character, and then Hunico becomes Sin Cara. So if you go, I mean, just in the mythos of Mystico and Sin Cara, you have multiple people that played both roles. Each one of those roles having been played by multiple people. La Parka is the same way. So the original La Parka is now, I don't even know if he's still wrestling as L.A. Park, but he had left and AAA and was wrestling as L.A. Park because he didn't have the ownership of La Parka. So at one point there was a new La Parka, and then there was also L.A. Park, and L.A. Park was that original La Parka from Nitro, that original La Parka who inspires some of the Penta strut, the original La Parka that I think inspires some of Dominic Mysterio's attire. But so this new La Parka was introduced, I don't know, was it a year ago? I don't know. It might have been less than a year ago. But when he was first introduced, he came out to Thriller. And that's why and he does like this amazing Thriller dance. And when you watch that original introduction of this new La Parka, you're watching this thing that it's either, and I love when big swings are taken. Either this is going to strike out something fierce, or this is going to be a monster. And it was amazing. It went over unbelievably. So I love that he got introduced first, which meant that he got to do a full intro. They couldn't use Thriller, but they used a similar, royalty-free music bed because, they're putting this up on WWE's YouTube channel and everything. There are copyright laws. But Yeah, having this new La Parka come, and also, with the kind of Aztec presentation because it was Triplemania, but just letting the WWE audience see what this new La Parka is. I've been waiting for that since they made the announcement at WrestleMania, and I thought it went over really, really well, and I love that he lasted the whole way to the point that you wondered, is La Parka going to be able to win this thing? And for a second, it looked like he was, but then, of course, Omos is that cold hand of reality, much the same way we've described Gunther in the past. But so you got La Parka, you have Otis returning, which I think was a surprise for everybody. There had been rumors that Omos might show up in AAA, but I didn't hear any rumors that Otis was going to show up in AAA. So Otis comes out. They love him there. And then Pimpinela Escarlata comes out. And this is one of the exoticos in Mexico. And I think, again, a lot of American wrestling fans didn't quite know what to make of Pimpinela. But, I mean, just, you could hear the audience, the way they reacted when Pimpinela came out. And the fact that, like, it was actually so funny. The fact that Otis, for a moment, it looked like he might have fallen in love. You know what I mean? There was that weird connection between the two of them. And then Otis is holding this exotico in his arms. And I go, I mean, Otis just has that raw magnetism. The fact that he can go from Mandy Rose to Pimpinela Escarlata, and I'm sitting there going like, yeah, I really hope for happiness for Otis. I hope he's found his partner here. I thought it was great. I love that spot. And then they go a step further and bring Microman out, so Microman and Otis can have that same chemistry. You just want Otis to be friends with everybody when you're watching. Seeing Cibernetico come out, I thought was really, really cool, because I remember in the beginning of 1996 when they did or maybe it was 97. Yeah, it was 97. The beginning of 1997 when they did the Royal Rumble in San Antonio. I always get my Royal Rumbles confused because it's the beginning of the year. It still feels like 96 in my head, but it is 97. Royal Rumble 97, they did it in San Antonio. And I think they wanted to bring in some of those fans of Mexican wrestling. So they partnered then with AAA. And they had a lot of AAA stars in the Royal Rumble that year. One of them, of course, they mentioned on commentary, was I can't believe I'm blanking on the most legendary luchador of all time, Mil Mascaras. Mil Mascaras was in the Royal Rumble, and of course, maybe because he didn't know the rules, maybe because he didn't want to do a yob, decided to eliminate himself by jumping off the top rope onto the outside of the ring in the Royal Rumble. But Cibernetico was one of the luchadors that was in the 1997 Royal Rumble. And this is when he was wearing his mask and everything, and he had like a whole tech gimmick going on. But I remember thinking how cool Cibernetico was in January of 97. You know, I was 13 years old thinking this guy rules. And now here I am. I won't tell you how old I am, but it's been several years since then. And it's been several years since then. And seeing Cibernetico still out there, no mask anymore, of course, but just seeing him still do the thing, I was like, yeah, what a badass dude. That's so cool. And of course, Omos returning, and the Omos rivalry in that match with Microman. It was like, talk about understanding the assignment. Seeing him and that moment where Omos looks around and then he has to look down to find Microman. It's so good, so good. And then for a second, Microman is going at him, but no, it's a gorilla press over the top rope. And Omos takes him out. I mean, perfect juxtaposition, we'll say. And then, you know, like I said, the hope that La Parka is going to do this thing. Omos is on the outside of the ring. He's wobbling, he's wiggling. And then, no, he catches La Parka, eliminates him. Omos wins that battle royal. El Macias versus El Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr. A special match because I think it was Triplemania 17 that Macias wrestled Dr. Wagner Jr. So the fact that he's wrestling his son, that's what El Hijo means, was really, really cool. And a really fun match. I love the Dr. Doom attire that Macias came out with. And of course, people know him from Lucha Underground as Mil Muerte, and he had a run in TNA and stuff. He's just been everywhere forever and just has one of the best looks in wrestling with that giant of a man with those cold eyes and everything. Just very, very cool. And hopefully they have the merch rights over these guys, because Bill McKenna needs to get right to work on a Messias Doctor Doom action figure. You won't say Doctor Doom, but it looks kind of like it, no? And then, you had you had Natty coming out in that triple threat for the Reina del Reinas championship. You had your 6-person, Los Garza versus Pagano and Psycho Clown in the hardcore match, losing the tag team championship. Of course, that 6-person match. That was the two highlights for me were the Rumble and talk about big swings and it working. Of course, Mr. Iguana has captured everybody's imagination, and he has Layeska with him. And Layeska is out there, and it's almost Santino Cobra vibes times 10. And then all of a sudden, Finn Balor hits the outside of the ring, and he lifts his arm up, and he removes the AAA bag over his hand, and he's got what was his name? El Demonito. He's got Demonito, which is a puppet of the demon. Finn Balor. We've been waiting for a return of the demon for how long? Then we get it in puppet form. And Mr. Iguana freaks out over it. It's go, oh my God, I can't believe it. Of course, the demon puppet doesn't lose, just like the demon doesn't lose, eats Layeska. And, we all start going, oh, we got to get a demon puppet. We got to get this on WWE Shop. Oh, it's up there. It's $100. If you want it, you got to really want this thing, but it's up there. And, Finn Balor's commitment to it, it was just fun. You know what I mean? Just a really, really awesome spot there. And then there was something about Finn Balor leaving and making all those Bullet Club hand gestures, putting the ears up, talking about for life. And you realize that Finn Balor, man, when he started doing the Bullet Club stuff, all I could think of was, the Tokyo Dome and New Japan. And the fact that this guy has done Wrestle Kingdom and done WrestleMania and done Triplemania. And he just has done everything. And one of these days, we got to sit down with Finn Balor and have a real, interview with him. The type of interview that I did with Edge a while back. I want to have Balor in here and no. Sit down and make yourself comfortable, because we have a lot to talk about. And it all kind of came flooding back when he's holding up the tag team championship and bullet clubbing the camera and everything. It's yeah, dude, this dude is the man. He is the man. And then, of course, you have your main event, which is for the AAA Mega Championship. It was Vikingo defending against Dragon Lee, Grande Americano, and, of course, Dirty Dominic Mysterio. Grande, by the way, I didn't realize how great Grande's Spanish was. But it's working, man. It's a part of me, though, I was imagine if Gable... What I really wanted to see happen was the idea that Gable was somehow better. You know what I mean? He had recovered from his shoulder surgery. And the idea of Kaiser as Americano, cutting promos all the way up, and then Gable comes out as Americano. I don't know how you pay that off. I don't know if Gable comes back as Americano trying to reclaim Americano. Clearly they're creating some kind of European faction, because right now there is a group of Americanos, and they're all in different masks. So you're not meant to believe that they're all the same person. But it's Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate, and Ludwig Kaiser. I gotta believe that they don't keep that gimmick once Gable is back. Because Gable as Americano is utter magic, but I don't know. Kaiser has a certain je ne sais quoi with his lackeys about being Americano too. So I'm very interested to see how that plays out once Gable actually returns. But man, you listen to the crowd, and you have to listen to the crowd. And of course, ever since Vikingo won the Mega Championship right after it was announced that WWE had kind of come in and acquired AAA, fans kind of turned on him. And it's not dissimilar, or doesn't feel to me as a fan dissimilar to what fans did to Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns, when he was in the Shield, was actually popular. Nobody booed Roman Reigns. Like, Roman Reigns was popular when he was in the Shield. But once that Rumble hit, once people realized, like, oh, this is their chosen guy. That's not our guy. We're not ready for him yet. That's their chosen guy. Then he started to get booed. Vikingo has come across, he won the championship from Del Rio. Once WWE, announced that they had come into AAA. And most of what WWE has done has been met positively. Just listen to the reception that everybody, that Omos got, that Otis got, that Natty got, that Lola Vice got, that Finn Balor and JD McDonough got, that Dominic Mysterio got, that Grande got. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't that hostile of a thing, but there's just something about Vikingo being their guy, not our guy, I think, that has people booing him as champion, which, by the way, can be okay, and maybe you make that part of Vikingo's story. But, and I made no secret about it. I talked about it on the Notsam Wrestling live show on Sirius XM. I talked about it here on this podcast. Like, I was so sure when Dominic Mysterio went to AAA and held up both the titles and held up that mega championship and his Intercontinental Championship, I went, this is it, dude. This is the move. Whether you thought it was the move or not, this is the move. And then as the match got closer and closer, and it became clear that, like, yeah, we understand what Dominic's gimmick is, except a couple things. Number one, people booed Dominic because the thing was that he acted like he was great, but he wasn't that good at wrestling yet. He's gotten really good at wrestling. Like, that's the thing, that, like, at some point we have to come to terms with the fact that we don't like Dominic Mysterio ironically anymore. Dominic Mysterio, and I think a lot of it had to do with that long run that he had in NXT, getting to work long matches. But Dominic Mysterio has become great at wrestling. He's great at promos. He's great at character work. He's great at moves. Like, it's this thing where it started in, let's all pretend Dominic is good, and that's what makes the gimmick fun, to now Dominic is actually good, and we've loved him this whole time. So I think you've got to take that into consideration. And, I thought that there was a chance that AJ Styles would come in and interfere. And I was actually kind of worried that AJ Styles was going to interfere in the match and Grande Americano was going to win the Super Championship or the Mega Championship. And instead, it was AJ Styles coming in with the mask on, unmasked. And by the way, that's also something to point out, that AJ Styles this year, in one calendar year, AJ Styles worked WrestleMania, AJ Styles worked Slammiversary, and AJ Styles worked Triplemania. That's massive. At this point in his career, AJ's another one of those guys with Finn Balor that's like, name something that guy hasn't done. And I love seeing the spot that AJ Styles is in. But I couldn't help but feel, and I loved the show. I loved Triplemania this year. But I couldn't help but feel kind of the same way that I felt when Joe Hendry didn't win the TNA Championship. Remember the show that he probably should have won the TNA Championship, and then they waited and he won it at the next one? And I was like, man, you had lightning in a bottle here. Why would you wait on this? Remember Nick Nemeth, I think, won the TNA Championship, and I love Nick Nemeth. But, like, in that moment, it was kind of Joe's moment. And I go, why wouldn't you pull the trigger on that? And you pull the trigger later, and it's like, okay, but why wouldn't you do it now? It's the same way I felt when Mike Santana lost at Slammiversary. It's like, you got this. Why wouldn't you pull the trigger on it? And I would get it. At the time, I was like, well, maybe they're going to do like a TNA invasion. Maybe both championships are going to be on the NXT show, and then TNA is going to come and invade the show and everything. But it hasn't happened. They haven't done it. And yeah, I don't mind Trick Williams being TNA champion. I like Trick Williams being TNA champion because I think it's good for Trick, and I think it's good for the TNA title. But ultimately, you found lightning in a bottle again. Mike Santana in that moment was like, over like Rover. So why wouldn't you pull the trigger and just put the title on Mike Santana? And I felt the same way about Dominic Mysterio. You had this amazing moment where everybody loves Dominic. You got the opportunity to have Dominic do something his dad never did, which is win the AAA Mega Championship and do it on Triplemania. And then you've got the opportunity for Dominic to go back on WWE television and be two-belt Dominic. Nobody can say anything to him anymore. Walk around with the AAA Mega Championship the same way he used to walk around with the NXT North American Championship, whether he was on NXT or not. Raw, SmackDown, he'd have his NXT title with him, and it brought attention to what was happening in NXT. Why wouldn't you have him walk around Raw with the AAA Championship? You don't have to keep it on him for a year, but why not take advantage of that moment? And I mean, the thing about the rivalry with AJ is every time AJ tries to outsmart Dominic Mysterio, Dominic gets one over on him. You know, I'm not even sure of the psychology in the AJ Styles Dominic Mysterio stuff, because like even that, like at SummerSlam, AJ comes out playing mind games with the lowrider in the Eddie pants and everything, but ultimately Dom plays an Eddie trick on AJ and Dom beats AJ. So, you know, it's almost like, and something similar happened on Raw. So it's almost like, I don't know, man. I just would have loved to have seen like, and maybe you'd say, well, why wouldn't AJ stop that? Why wouldn't AJ interfere? Some would say, why would AJ Styles go all the way to Mexico to interfere in a match? AJ Styles went all the way to Australia to interfere in a match, and Australia is a lot further away than Mexico. Man, going to Mexico City is nothing for AJ Styles. AJ Styles went all the way to Australia just to mess with LA Knight. You don't think he'll go to Mexico City because he's got a grudge against Dominic Mysterio? And so, yeah, and I mean, it's almost like, I don't know, if Dom had been able to steal the AAA championship, he could have then lost the Intercontinental Championship to AJ and still be the AAA Mega Champion. Maybe you even bring AJ over to do a AAA Championship match with AJ Styles. That'd be big for AAA. I don't know. I was bummed. I was bummed that Dom didn't win. I thought that would have been an amazing sort of boom. Like it would. I was thinking to myself, if Dom wins this, I'm gonna have to go downstairs and do an emergency podcast. Everybody's gonna be talking about this. And when he didn't, I was like, I love that show. I can't wait for the next one. But man, I would have loved to have seen Dominic Mysterio win the Mega Championship. Guys, we're going to get right back to it, but if meal prepping and cooking is taking away from literally anything else, then you need Huel. Huel makes meal times ridiculously simple. Just drink your bottle and you're getting a complete meal. No thought required. That's perfect for me. Their Black Edition ready to drink has a whopping 35 grams of protein, tons of fiber, 27 vitamins and minerals, plus it comes in both chocolate and vanilla. It tastes like a milkshake. Look, I need this more than ever. I find myself needing to prep meals because I'm busy, but I'm busy so I can't prep meals. So what do? I grab a Huel and boom, I got everything I need. You can enjoy a Huel at home. You can take it on the go so you're never skipping meals again. It will save you so much. It'll save you time. It'll save you money without compromising your nutrition. And you can start today with this exclusive offer for new customers. 15% off using my exclusive code, NOTSAM, at Huel.com. That's 15% off for new customers with code NOTSAM at Huel.com. See show notes for the terms and conditions. Skip the stress, not the nutrition. Try Huel today for complete nutrition bottled. I mean, look, I don't know. Maybe I'm just in a space right now where I'm ready for stuff to happen. I'm ready for titles to change. I mean, and maybe it's a heel thing, right? I mean, I don't think Dominic Mysterio is going to be a heel for very much longer. You know, he's well on his way to being a babyface. But maybe it's a thing where it's like, what if this happens and then it just does? Like for me, I keep asking, what if Drew McIntyre goes to Clash in Paris and beats Cody Rhodes and becomes the WWE champion? And conventional logic would say that wouldn't happen. Cody literally just won the title at the beginning of this month. He's going to lose it before it's September. And I get it. Conventionally speaking, no. But what if, yes? Drew McIntyre is in a position where I think he's ready to be elevated further. When you turn on SmackDown this week, There was no Cody. There was no Cena. There was no Logan Paul. There was no Brock Lesnar. None of them. Drew McIntyre was the one that was carrying the star power weight on a show that used to have Roman Reigns on it. Of all the top stars, it was Drew McIntyre. There was no Punk. There was no anybody. It was Drew McIntyre carried the who's the big superstar on the show weight. He did. And I get it that the story of SmackDown was Sami Zayn coming over. We'll talk about that in a moment. And Sami and Jimmy and Jacob versus Solo and his MFTs. But realistically, in terms of that world title picture, in terms of tippity top stars now, not tippity top stars of the future, Drew McIntyre was carrying that weight. I thought that they're selling, I think that they're selling the attack beautifully, the attack that Drew McIntyre did on Cody Rhodes. I love what they're doing with it. I think that Tess and Wade did such a good job a couple weeks ago on SmackDown, and then this last week on SmackDown, Drew coming out. He can't get a medical update. Tess won't give him a medical update. And Drew explains, and it's a very Drew McIntyre thing to do. I didn't attack Cody. He attacked me. I didn't turn on Cody. Cody turned on me. And he puts you through the logic of it, step by step, which is the match was over and Cody's on the outside of the ring getting ready to put Drew through that table. And so what did Drew do? He retaliated. That's all that he did. It's the defense of self-defense is what Drew is presenting. I also think that he was intoxicated when he looked deeply into that championship title. But Drew had a legitimate sort of, this is my defense on this. He kind of painted this picture that he's painted before of being the victim, of being like, you are not seeing it from my point of view and you're not being honest. But also, pointing out that Cody's not here and selling that attack. Now, as I'm watching Drew, and I go, yeah, Drew is the guy. If you bought a ticket to SmackDown, if you're watching SmackDown, who's the biggest star on the show? It's Drew McIntyre. And Drew McIntyre has been in a position for a little while now where he hasn't really been that close to the championship, but he's been the heel that leads the story, that is the main event story that is not a championship story. Whether it's Drew and Logan and Jelly and Randy, whether it's Drew and Punk, whether it's whatever. Drew is there leading that. And now Drew has finally found himself in a position where the championship is in discussion. And I mean, the way in my head I go, okay, because at first it's just that feeling, right? Just that instinct. What if Drew wins the championship? Wouldn't it be cool if Drew was champion? And I go, well, I don't want to do Cody like that. I love Cody. I love Cody as a babyface. I love Cody as the top guy. I don't want to do Cody like that. But it's also like, again, this championship that Roman Reigns sort of introduced after he beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 38 and merged the WWE Championship and the Universal Championship together. It was a while back, right? He's taken this championship through WrestleMania 39, through WrestleMania 40. Cody brought it through 41. Now we're getting dangerously close to 42, but that title is, arguably been around since WrestleMania 38. But you could go, a little after WrestleMania 38, but certainly 39. So say 39 to 4. So it's been around for 2-3 years at this point. And there's been 3 champions, and that's it. And again, not a bad thing. Those titles should have credibility. But having one title change that isn't quite that long, because even Cena's title reign, while not nearly as long as the others, Cody held the title for a year, Roman held the title for a lot longer than a year. And Cena's title reign ended up getting cut because, the character had to change because it wasn't doing what it was supposed to do. But even that one was April, May, June, July, August. Even that's a 4-month title reign, which I remember a time where a 4-month title reign was significant. There have been a lot of title reigns, especially go back to the Attitude Era. Title reigns were a week. I'm just saying that Drew could go to Paris. And if you main event that show, right? Because in my mind, what do you have? You've got Roman working, but again, the same thing I said over the week, I would predict Roman's on the poster. That's how we know he's going to be at the show. My prediction since last week has been, coming off of Raw, was Roman versus Bronson. So that's not the main event of the show, I don't think. You got the four-way for the World Heavyweight Championship, which is Seth, Punk, Jay, and LA Knight, which we'll get into in a minute, but Seth, I believe, will leave with the World Heavyweight Championship. So what if you main evented, though, with Drew and Cody? And Drew wins the match. And Drew wins the match however you want to do it. And then you've also got Logan Paul versus John Cena, which is a big match. I mean, it's a pretty loaded card. I don't know if it'll main event. It could. I don't know if it will. But if Drew were to win the championship, and he could win it with the help of somebody, he could win it by having his feet on the rope, he could win it by doing any number of things. I would prefer that he not win it by hitting Cody with the belt, because I'm about tired of seeing Cody get hit with that belt. But it doesn't have to be squeaky clean. He's a heel. But if Drew were to win that title, then now we're in September, and now it's the fall, and Cody can spend the rest of the year chasing that title. And you could even bring it all the way September, October, get it to November, get it to Survivor Series, and you could do a star-studded War Games match that every star is in except Drew and Cody. And you could have Cody win the title back at Survivor Series. You could have Cody win the title back before the year is over. Except the one last thing that happens before the end of the year, right? You've had Cody now chasing Drew for the whole last quarter. Cody finalizes that by winning the title. So yes, Cody is now a 3-time WWE champion, wins that title the same way that type of stuff would have happened to somebody like Brett. Cody chasing it, because now you've got babyface Cody chasing it. You've got a real kind of significant chase, right? Where it's like when he came back after WrestleMania, he did the tag match, then he went into King of the Ring. And then once he won King of the Ring, he was guaranteed this shot at SummerSlam. And that was kind of it. This is not about, I'm going to win a match to get a title shot. This is not about, because it was the same thing, really, when he got to WrestleMania 39. He won the Royal Rumble, so he gets a title. He won everything, so he gets this title match. And then he loses. And that's what made the win at WrestleMania 40 so much better, because while, yes, technically he got the match because he won the Royal Rumble, realistically, what made that build compelling was he had to work for the match. He had to work so that The Rock didn't steal his match. He had to win a tag match. Oh, no. He didn't have, I'm sorry. They lost the tag match. It became Bloodline Rules. But even in Bloodline Rules, losing the tag match meant that he had to work and work. His back was still up against the wall. It wasn't just, well, the stipulation is I get a title shot, so now I get a title shot. And I think watching Cody have to earn the opportunity back at Drew's championship, and seeing Drew on a mini reign of terror where maybe, who knows when or if Cody's going to get it back. And then we can speculate wildly when or if that may happen, and whether or not Drew is going to carry that title all the way to WrestleMania. And then right around Survivor Series, Cody is able to get the title back from Drew. And I think that when Cody finally gets the title back from Drew, Drew will be fine. Drew will be okay. We've now gotten used to the idea that he could be WWE champion. And there's one more thing you can do before the end of the year. Either in John Cena's last match, or maybe John Cena's second to last match, however you want to do it, Drew McIntyre beats John Cena. So he's not the champion anymore, but he beats John Cena with a Claymore, just beats him. So now you're entering into 2026 with Cody as the champion, which means you're going to have Cody in a WrestleMania main event defending that title. But now you've got Drew McIntyre having beaten John Cena. You've gotten a taste of what Drew McIntyre looks like as champion. And Drew McIntyre has beaten John Cena in one of John Cena's last matches, if not Drew McIntyre's, if not John Cena's actual last match. So now you go into 2026 with the feeling that Drew is not one of these, like, could be the guy, right under the guy types. You go into 2026 with a real argument that Drew is ready for the run where he is the guy. Drew McIntyre is ready to be the guy. And then a question is going to come up. Will Drew McIntyre ever be the guy as long as Cody Rhodes is around? If Cody Rhodes is around, does Drew McIntyre have the room to ever be straight up the guy? And maybe that's the story of the whole rivalry of Drew and Cody. Maybe as much as like Cody is in Roman's way, Cody is also in Drew's way. Roman is not in Drew's way because Drew's going to be here every week. Roman's not going to be here every week. Roman can be as big as he wants to be, but Drew's going to be the guy that's in, day out. But as long as Cody is there, that's not going to happen. So to me, I go, okay, I think that you then can end up with a truly epic post-WrestleMania of 2026 rivalry between Drew McIntyre and Cody Rhodes, where we find out who really is the guy. And that starts, I think, potentially with Drew McIntyre winning the championship at Clash in Paris. But, that's just, I'm not saying he will. I'm just saying I would like to see it happen, and that's why I would like to see it happen. We got a trade. I mean, I would imagine they didn't phrase it, I don't think, with the words there was a trade, but we got a trade for lack of a better term. LA Knight would appear to be a Monday Night Raw superstar. And I think that's a good sign for LA Knight. I think LA Knight, it was time for a change of scenery. And I think that LA Knight is in a position now where he gets to Monday Night Raw and he is immediately in that main event scene. And you could see that bubbling, a couple months back where it was like there was something brewing, and it goes back to Saturday night's main event between Seth Rollins and LA Knight. Now LA Knight goes to Monday Night Raw, and he's right in the main event scene, and he's accepted in the main event scene, and he feels like he belongs in the main event scene. It feels like it's a big deal that LA Knight is here. We don't have to reintroduce him to the audience. He doesn't have to be like, oh, look, a new Raw superstar, LA Knight. Let's have him wrestle, this preliminary guy and get to know him a little bit. No, he's right there, right in the main event, ready to go. And that's a good spot for him to be in. He's going right to the Fatal 4-Way at Clash in Paris. He's right in contention for the World Heavyweight Championship. I think that Seth Rollins, like I said, is going to win that Fatal 4-Way match. I don't think now is the time to take that title off Seth Rollins. But I've got to tell you, as far as LA Knight goes, I would like to see a far more aggressive LA Knight when he's in the ring with somebody like CM Punk. I would like to see LA Knight have a real problem with CM Punk. I don't like that LA Knight was so like, look, all due respect, I don't have a problem with you. I get where you're coming from. I don't like that version of LA Knight. And I really don't like that version of LA Knight with CM Punk, because from LA Knight's perspective, CM Punk is a company guy. And I don't say that with malice. I love CM Punk. I love this evolution of CM Punk. But realistically, he came in, he's a top guy now. He's one of those like veterans that is a cemented top guy. And by the way, he should be. But that's the position that LA Knight has been fighting to get in forever. And CM Punk gets to return and just be in that position. That should piss off LA Knight. And so when LA Knight finally is in the position to be a world heavyweight champion and CM Punk interferes in the match, that should get under LA Knight's skin. I think it would be really fun if, coming off of this Fatal 4-Way, that you had LA Knight and CM Punk as rivals. I want to see LA Knight versus CM Punk. I want to see LA Knight decide that he's not okay with CM Punk. And maybe that's LA Knight has the match won and CM Punk breaks up the pin. And he should break up the pin because it's a Fatal 4-Way. But then LA Knight says, that's twice now. That's twice. I told you not to do that again. I told you not to do that again. And maybe it's like this version of LA Knight that's like a tweener. But I don't know. If you have a rivalry where LA Knight is more of the heel than CM Punk is, because I don't think CM Punk's going to be the heel. CM Punk is a baby face through and through. But I think if you have LA Knight drifting more towards that heel space, I think you have the potential to do something really, really cool. I think that the reason that people like LA Knight is not just the catchphrase, right? Yeah, I don't think that's it. I think that what draws people to LA Knight is the rebellious streak in LA Knight. Number one, there's something about him that feels almost like a throwback to what you want your favorite wrestler to be. But number two, it's that rebellious streak. It's that he's not supposed to be in that spot, but we want him in that spot. It's that thing where he's got to get there on his own because he's not going to get there otherwise. Nobody's going to put him there. He's going to put himself there. And I think that there's an edge that should come with that. And I love the idea of him being in the position that years ago CM Punk would have been in against somebody like CM Punk. When CM Punk was CM Punk in 2011, 2012, and a legend came in, CM Punk had no reverence for the legend. CM Punk did not like seeing legends get other spots. CM Punk did not like seeing The Rock main event WrestleMania. CM Punk did not feel like he naturally melded with Kevin Nash. You know what I mean? He wanted it to be about him. He didn't want guys from the past coming back and taking that spot. And I think that that's the spot that LA Knight is in right now. LA Knight becomes the de facto modern day Punk in the Punk LA Knight story. And I think LA Knight could go full heel and it'd be fine. I don't think that LA Knight as a heel should join Seth's group. It should be one of those heels where he's still got a toe outside of heel world, where he's a heel, but he doesn't get along with Seth's group. Because eventually he'll go right back to being a babyface. Because mark my words, if LA Knight went heel, it would be a month before people loved him even more than they do now. If LA Knight went heel, then people would remember why it was that they loved LA Knight to begin with. And it would turn everything on its head. So, that's why I would have him still no, I'm not joining Seth's group. I still hate everybody in Seth's group. But I'm a heel now. I'm fighting guys like Jey Uso and CM Punk. I love the idea of LA Knight coming in as a disruptor. I love the idea of LA Knight coming in and not being like, hey, Jay and Punk, we all have the same goal to get the title off Seth Rollins. No. Punk, Jay, we don't all have the same goal. My goal is not to get the title off Seth Rollins. My goal is to get the title on me. If the title's not on me, I could give two squats who the title is on. Punk and Jay, if you got your rivalry with Seth and you want to work together, that's fine, but I'm not on your team. I'm on my team. There's only one man on this team, and it's LA Knight. Yeah. And I think that starts, and it might even feel like a heel turn, but it would turn him into a bigger babyface. It would bring him back into that, Steve Austin space where he becomes the anti-hero. Because that is what we're lacking, right? We don't have an anti-hero right now. We have heroes. And, Cody is a hero. Punk is a hero. Jay is a hero. Sami is a hero. Even Jacob is a hero. Why don't we experiment with the idea of living in a wrestling space where we have both heroes and anti-heroes? And you could put them both in the babyface column, but the anti-hero is not going to get along with the heroes. And find out, how over are these baby faces? Because if a baby face is fully over, then he can deal with an anti-hero. If a baby face isn't really that over, then an anti-hero is going to come in and completely blow up his spot. The hero is going to look cheesy. Everybody's going to love the anti-hero. But if a hero is really over, it's not that simple. It's not so cut and dry. And that's what I'd like to see. I'd really like to see LA Knight not necessarily be even a full heel, but an anti-hero in a world of heroes. And just watch the audience come unglued for something different, But that's I think that's what I'd like to see is not just telling a good guys versus bad guys story, but adding some meat, adding some depth right? Not just saying, yeah, of course LA Knight wants the championship. Or in the case of Sami Zayn, Sami Zayn now on SmackDown after LA Knight goes to Raw. And it is a little bit ironic. I don't think they've brought it up, but if he had gone to SmackDown a month or two ago, he could have gotten a shot at the Undisputed Championship. Remember, Paul Heyman said, just go to SmackDown so we don't have to deal with you, and you'll get a shot at the championship. And Sami said no. And now he's on SmackDown, and he doesn't get a shot at the championship. So not that great of a deal from Sami Zayn. But, Sami came out on SmackDown. He said he's now after another title, that he's never gotten to hold, and that's Solo Sikoa's United States Championship, and that's when Solo finds out that Sami is on SmackDown, and the match is made, Jacob and Sami and Jimmy versus Solo and the MFTs. And I do love the sort of nod to what was once, the bloodline coming back and everything. I don't like that people call Solo and his MFTs the bloodline, because it's not the bloodline. Solo and his MFTs. But I enjoy seeing Jacob Fatu interact with members of the OG bloodline, because it does make you see, like when you see Solo teaming with Jey Uso, when you see Solo teaming with Jimmy and Sami, you start to be like, oh, what could have been? Can you imagine? Can you imagine if he was around then? It's just a cool thing to see, because Jacob is the man. And I do also enjoy, like, there is this thing, Jacob accepting Sami at the end of SmackDown and Sami getting excited about it. Number one, it's a throwback to when Roman finally accepted Sami. But number two, it puts over how much the man Jacob is. That there is something about Jacob Fatu that when he goes like, you're cool in my book, you feel cool, man. That's Jacob Fatu. But there's a couple things there. Number one, if you're not going to put the World Heavyweight Championship on Sami Zayn anytime soon, I don't mind him going after the United States Championship. I also think that Jacob is very soon destined for higher things than the United States Championship. So the idea that Sami Zayn's going to go for the United States Championship allows it to kind of be off Jacob's plate, so Jacob can continue to grow from there, so he's not kind of still in this United States Championship picture, because I don't think it's going to be that far into next year where Jacob is a potential Royal Rumble winner, where Jacob maybe is a potential Elimination Chamber winner. Where coming off of WrestleMania, maybe Jacob is the man the night after WrestleMania, where it's like, okay, now we launch the Jacob World Championship story, whatever that is. So in the meantime, the fact that while that's being built, while that foundation is being laid, Sami goes after the United States Championship, so it's off Jacob's plate. I don't mind that at all. I think it's a lot of star power for Solo and his group to compete with. I think that people have unfair expectations about Solo Sikoa and his MFTs. Number one, they go, well, it's not as good as the Bloodline was in its prime. And you're like, there were arguments that the Bloodline in its prime was better than the Four Horsemen. I'm sorry that this faction is not as good as what is potentially the greatest faction of all time. And then just as people are having that argument, the group that is on the other side of the ring from Solo's group, which, by the way, is Solo and three guys that are like pretty much brand new. I mean, I know Tama Tonga's been here for a second. I mean, Tonga Loa has been here for a second, but really we don't know Tonga Loa. Like, Solo's got three guys that all we know of is in the context of they back up Solo. And the people fighting Solo are giant industry stars. Jacob Fatu, Sami Zayn, and Jimmy Uso. So there's a lot on Solo's plate, and I think it creates expectations that are completely unfair, because I think Solo is amazing. I think Solo's doing amazing work right now. But I'd like to see an evolution in this story where it's more than just, hey, remember, we were all part of the Bloodline before. Like, I'd like to see this really become something, and I think it can. I do think that it can. But I also think that it's clearly separated from previous Bloodline iterations or anything like that. I was also when I'm talking about title changes and stuff, you can't help. So last weekend, we had TNA Emergence and Triplemania. This weekend, we have Forbidden Door and Heatwave, NXT Heatwave. And of course, we've got MJF and Hangman at Forbidden Door. Do I think MJF should be AEW champion? Yes, I do. Do I think MJF should be AEW champion before the end of this month? No, not necessarily. If he were, okay, but not necessarily. I think that the promos between MJF and Hangman have been good, but my favorite thing was the beatdown that MJF gave Hangman in the parking lot, and that's because I am so ready for the scumbag to come back. I am, and I think I speak for a large portion of the pro wrestling audience when I say I am so ready for MJF to come back full scumbag. And that's to say that heel that we all loved his performance and knew he was becoming one of the biggest things in wrestling, but you had to boo him because he was so awful. I'm talking about the MJF from the early days of AEW. I'm talking about the MJF that was in a rivalry with CM Punk. I'm talking about the MJF that was AEW champion. I'm talking about the pre-Devil Story MJF. I'm talking about pre-Adam Cole MJF. That's the MJF that I want back. And by the way, he's already being a scumbag in CMLL. I don't know if you keep me up on everything that he's doing in CMLL, but he was over there, and not only did he attack Mystico, he unmasked Mystico, he attacked him without the mask on, and then draped an American flag over Mystico. It was so disrespectful. That's the MJF that I want back. That's the MJF that AEW needs to have back. That was the MJF that was hyping up the bidding war of 2024. That really had people talking for months and months and months and months. So you've got Hangman and MJF this weekend. You've got MJF and Mystico at the CMLL anniversary show, and that's going to be a title versus mask match. MJF's, what is he, the international, I want to say, CMLL champion? So MJF's title versus Mystico's mask. Now, MJF walks out of CMLL with real heat on him, and it's great. I think at Forbidden Door, and we've seen so much leading to this with MJF. Coming off of the Adam Cole story, then he really wants the Hurt Business to accept him. I'm done with MJF wanting anybody to accept him. And I hope the fact that the Hurt Business kicked him out of their group was the kick in the ass that MJF needed to go, I don't need anyone's acceptance. Whether that's Adam Cole's, whether that's Montel's, whether that's anyone else's. The devil is back. The scumbag is back, and I'm not your scumbag. I'm back. But in order to get there, I think Hangman should beat MJF at Forbidden Door. The night before All Out is the CMLL show. I think Mystico should beat MJF at the CMLL show. And I don't know what, maybe MJF doesn't work All Out since he's working the CMLL show the night before. But I think that Max comes off of losses to Hangman at Forbidden Door and Mystico at the anniversary show. Not only has he lost his opportunity at the AEW championship, but he's also lost his CMLL championship. Now Max is on the warpath. And now Max is realizing that he's got to be more evil than he's ever been. And Max starts preying on Hangman Page. Max needs one more match with Hangman Page. Of course, that contract has been cashed in because Hangman made him cash it in to get to Forbidden Door. So now Max has no choice but to turn Hangman's life upside down. And what Max is going to do is he's going to try to drag Hangman back down into the depths of depression that Hangman was in before he won the AEW championship. And it's going to get so severe that at one point, Swerve is going to try to stop Max. And we'll get an MJF versus Swerve rivalry on the way. And MJF will beat Swerve. And that'll be a big win for MJF. And that's how you'll know MJF is back. That MJF beats Swerve. That's a big thing to happen in 2025. And then I think you see the games are played and the games are played and the games are played and Swerve goes down and all of this happens until we finally get to the rematch, which I would have at maybe Full Gear. And you have this Full Gear rematch with MJF and Adam Page. And MJF has effectively dragged Adam Page down to the depths of hell that he once lived in so well that MJF beats Adam Page at Full Gear. And it leaves Adam Page spiraling. Adam Page is a shell of a person. And this becomes MJF's calling card. That if you fight MJF, he's not just going to beat you. He's going to leave your soul in disrepair. You're going to be a different person with the torture that MJF is going to put you through. Which will bring us to World's End, which is where we get to the Bobby Lashley MJF story. MVP said there is no drama between the Hurt Business and MJF. It's just business. MJF asked MVP about it. He said, no, it's not. It's just business. But if you win the title, Bobby's going to want that title, and it's going to become personal. Okay. It was all business, which is why we don't have to settle Hurt Business and MJF right now. Not until MJF wins the title in November. Once he wins the title, that's when it becomes personal. That's when it all comes back. Now you've got Bobby Lashley coming after MJF. And how does somebody like MJF fight somebody that is as physically imposing as Bobby Lashley? Well, MJF plays the mental game. And so what we basically have is this match where Bobby Lashley is going to do everything that he can to rip MJF limb from limb. Because remember, it was MVP that said it's not business now, it's personal. And MJF is going to do everything that he can to destroy Bobby Lashley as a human being from the inside out. Find every weakness as a person that Bobby Lashley has. Go way too far in the build for this match so that when you finally get there, you figure out who's capable of more damage, the physical assault of Bobby Lashley or the mental assault of MJF. And I feel like that's going to bring us back to a place where it was like, that's like prime MJF, dude. But that's how I kind of see the big picture of this. That yes, I have MJF losing at Forbidden Door, but realistically, that's only the beginning of this bigger story that we're telling that will lead us to this match where MJF is going to really mentally mess up Bobby Lashley as he's already left Page spiraling down, 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 down. I think it could be really good. A couple of shout outs real quick. We talked on the radio show a little bit. Cool to see Edge and Christian reunite. I was going to do a whole bit on it, but we're running low on time about the Wyatt Six haunting SmackDown. I love the Wyatt Six going back to those roots, popping up in the Miz and Carmelo versus Fraxium tag match, popping up in the reflection of the back of that truck. I don't think that was Nikki Cross in the truck. I think her reflection was in the back door of the truck. Eric Rowan lingering around when the tag teams are talking. Love all that. And of course, big shout out to Sami Callihan, who left his boots in the ring at TNA Emergence. I've known Sami for a very long time throughout the New York Indies, East Coast Indies, I should say. Had to run an NXT, but just the man. Sami Callihan, hell of a career. And he's still going to be involved in wrestling. And I hope he's very proud of what he's accomplished thus far in the world of professional wrestling. Let's get to your emails, huh? Email notsamwrestling@gmail.com if you got anything to discuss here on the show. Notsamwrestling@gmail.com is our email address. Of course, you can also call into the radio show. You can talk to me on Not Sam Wrestling Live every day, Monday through Thursday, 12 to 2 p.m. Eastern on Sirius XM 156. That's Pro Wrestling Nation. Although I won't be on Monday this week which is today, if you're listening to this when it first dropped, because myself and Megan Morant will be at Monday Night Raw in Philadelphia doing the Raw recap live from the arena, which is a lot of fun. Let's get to these emails, though. NotSamWrestling@gmail.com. This one's coming from Toby, who says, for years, ever since it was unified after Roman and Brock, they've called Cody's title the Undisputed Championship, and on Raw, Heyman referred to Seth's title as Undisputed, but as soon as they announced it and introduced another major world championship, by definition, wouldn't both of them be disputed? Also, can we nominate Heyman for the Get Your Stuff In Hall of Fame for running back his... Oh, Jay. You wrote, hey. Jay in the Get Your Stuff In Hall of Fame for running his entrance back during the gauntlet match. No, because it didn't cost him when he did it. So I can't do that. But, no, I don't know. I don't get hung up on that undisputed word as much as some other people do. I mean, the WWE Championship and the World Heavyweight Championship are two different championships. I don't dispute. I don't know. It's wrestling, dude. I don't know what to tell you. I don't get hung up on it. Let's go to Natalie, who writes, hello to the No Breaks, All Gas, OPTC. That's right, I am. You've spoken many times about the number of challengers Seth Rollins is racking up. Can this be a direct setup for War Games? With Clash in Paris as an appetizer for a multi-man match, who do you see on each side? So, first of all, no, I mean, War Games is still not until the end of November, and it's August. So we got a little while. But Natalie has the Vision with Drew and Logan versus Punk, LA Knight, Jey Uso, Cody, and Cena. Or perhaps Roman taking the Cody spot. Yad-ra-min. So I've got, right now, if I'm going to do Drew and Cody in the main event for Cody getting his title back, then I've got, on the good guys side, I've got Cena, Punk, Roman, Jay, Cena, Punk, Roman, Jay, and maybe LA Knight, give him the push ski, versus Brock, Seth, Drew's getting the title shot, Logan Paul, Braun Breaker, and maybe Bronson Reed. Although you could put Solo instead of one of those and put Jacob instead of LA Knight. That could be interesting. Let's see. Cole writes in, greetings to my Lord. Yes, Lord of the Marks. Somewhat lengthy, but I think it's worth it. Okay, I don't like length. Okay. First, I don't necessarily think we need an answer from Brock on why he hit Cody with an F5 after he gave him his stamp of approval. Why he hit Cody with an F5. Well, he didn't hit Cody with an F5 after he gave him his stamp of approval. You mean Cena? I interpreted saying, hey, you're the man now, but remember, I'm still the conqueror. I can take you out at any time, or however you phrase it. But Brock didn't hit Cody with an F5. He hit Cena with an F5. 2, as far as Cena's last match and him giving his stamp of approval. Why did you write giving his stamp of approval? I think he's been doing it all year. Okay, I'm done. Let's go to Connor. What's up, Sam? I wanted to shout out Rich Eisen for his unintended role in the success of the Ruse of the Century at SummerSlam. I would agree with that. Shout out to Rich Eisen for sure. It goes all the way back to March 24th, 2025, when Rich extended the offer to Seth Rollins live on the air to guest host the Rich Eisen Show. Without that generous offer, who knows? Yep, cheers to the Rich Eisen Show. That's 100% right. And Rich Eisen rules. Let's see. Dietrich writes in, and he writes, Sam, why the hell is SmackDown superstar LA Knight having scheduled segments on Raw? What the hell is Adam Pearce doing by booking a wrestler from an opposite brand in the Raw's World Championship in the main event? See, I took it as LA Knight's on Raw now. I don't think they've officially announced that, but that's how I kind of took it. I understand that LA Knight has been feuding with a Raw superstar. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I kind of got through this whole email by saying LA Knight's kind of on Raw now. Plus, Sammy's on SmackDown, so that kind of answers that. Aaron writes in, hello, my OPTC. I have 2 questions for you this week. First, if Liv Morgan is out injured until the beginning of next year, do you think a babyface Liv Dom versus Finn and Roxanne is a WrestleMania-worthy match? I mean, listen, I don't know how long Liv is out, and I can't tell you what is a wrestle. Yeah, if the story's there, it all depends on story. I mean, Micro Man versus Omos is a WrestleMania worthy match if the story's there, and kind of if the story's not there. I'd love to see that match at WrestleMania. Secondly, how would you end the Seth and Punk feud? Because I imagine Seth and Roman will be the main focus once we approach the WrestleMania season. I mean, I'd have a blow-off match is how it would end. I hate to be a smartass. I don't mean to be a smartass. But, I mean, yeah, I would have you'd have a blow-off match, and you probably have to have the babyface win. And that would be how you blew off that rivalry if you wanted to blow it off. It's how you blew off Punk and Drew as well. But I don't think it's a given that it's going to be Seth and Roman at WrestleMania. I think there's a strong argument for another Roman and Cody match at WrestleMania. I would argue it. Joe writes in, greetings, OPTC. I hope the guys from Busted Open haven't taken your shoes. Please. You think anybody on Busted? Well, Bully Ray and Mark Henry and probably Tommy Dreamer could take my shoes. I thought you meant the hosts, not the wrestler hosts. Yeah, the wrestlers could definitely take my shoes. Am I the only one slightly bothered by how my family tree is referred to in the plural? No, yeah, I get it. Shouldn't the group just be MFTs? MFT, like you can't. Yeah, I get it. But, MFT stands for my family tree, and these are my MFTs. It's a slang. Are we nitpicking pro wrestling now? Is that, at what point did we start doing that on this podcast? That's a second grammar related. Is the word undisputed the right word? Should MFTs be pluralized? If grammar is our biggest concern, then clearly we're doing fine. Avik writes in, if Brock stays in the WWE beyond the Cena match, which other 3 matches would you want to see? I'd go Gunther, Dom, and Breaker. I would like to see Brock and Gunther. I would like to see Brock and Braun. I don't need to see Brock and Dom, to tell you the truth, at this point. I would have loved to have seen Brock and Dom a while back, but Brock and Dom now I don't need to see. Brock and Jacob. I would go Gunther, Breaker, and Jacob Fatu, is what I would say. Cody from Toledo writes in, with all this money being thrown around, literally billions, the narrative behind the negotiations with Killer Cross and what seems like a rapidly changing landscape in general, professional wrestling in general, can you see a world where there's any sort of unionization in pro wrestling? I don't know. I mean, could I see it? Sure. Could I see it not happening? Sure. I'm not back there we're watching it on TV. We're watching the entertainment part of it. I can't tell you anything about SAG-AFTRA. Anything. But I watch movies all the time. I mean, what do I know? I don't want to sound like a D1 Glazer. Secondly, I don't want to sound like a D1 Glazer, but I feel like you're crushing it, big dog. And SiriusXM 156 has been a total game changer. So fun to talk wrestling with the last professional broadcaster. I call way too much, and my wife makes fun of me. Cody, first of all, you don't sound like a D1 Glazer. You just sound like somebody who knows facts. Facts are facts, and that's all there is to it. I am crushing it. And your wife should understand that. And the fact that you get to call in on a semi-regular basis and talk to somebody who's crushing it, your wife should be happy for you, I think. Joe writes in, big ups to the OPTC. I appreciate you, the original podcast and only podcast Tribal Chief. John Cena's final year of active competition has been pretty great so far, but he's not the only legend doing so. The ace of the universe, Tanahashi, is wrapping up his career this year as well. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, find a way before the end of 2025 for this impossible match to happen. I mean, listen, that's ridiculous. It's never going to happen. But can you imagine if we get Tanahashi versus John Cena? It's almost like I almost want them to be like, okay, let's take promotions outside. Like on New Year's Eve, I want them to just not for WWE, not for AEW. I want them to just be like, hey, I know we're going to do Wrestle Kingdom on the 4th of January, but on New Year's Eve, because John Cena said at the end of this year, I'm done. On the 30th, that's what I would do. On New Year's Eve, do another Tokyo Dome show. And it's Tanahashi versus John Cena. End of the year. End of the career. End of the year, end of the career is what I would call it. Yeah, I think that'd be awesome. Let's do it. This will be the last email. This is from Ben. Sam, I believe you promote wild speculation. Yes, I do. But you squash wants and hopes, like avoiding fantasy matches. I don't know. No, I don't. But like, if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. You know, these are my opinions. I do promote wild speculation. However, the idea that for me to go, no, that doesn't make sense. Like every time I say, here's some wild speculation, I try to make it make sense. And if you tell me it doesn't make sense, I'll go back on it. Like, we can speculate wildly, but if something can be proven as like that would never happen, then that's not wild speculation. That's kidding yourself. It's two different things. That being said, I'm going to put my hopes out in the universe. I don't want to see Cena go out on his back. Okay. I mean, okay, that's fine. It's not a guarantee that he will. I want a great final match. And the moment I want after the match, as he's laying there completely spent, having given it his all, is the entire WWE locker room surrounds the ring and carry him out on his shoulders. I want a Rocky moment. Just as he said he's about to go through the Titantron, his back is up to us on his shoulders. He punches his fist into the... Yeah, but okay, fine. You didn't even say who his opponent will be. I have already set that up. If you listen to this show, literally in January, when we first started talking about it, I said that you can have your cake and eat it too. You can have Braun Breaker beat John Cena with a small package. 1, 2, 3, that's it. Braun Breaker gets the victory. He leaves the ring. John Cena's now laying there. He can't believe it's all over. And all the baby faces come out and put him up on their shoulders. And they can put him up on their shoulders because Braun Breaker didn't kill him. He just put him in a small package. You know, this is what I mean. Like, that, yes, I'm doing another email because you promote I promote wild speculation, but you didn't even give me an opponent for Cena. You didn't even give a scenario. You just said, here's what would happen at the end of the match. At the end of what match? G writes in, Gerard. I grew up in the Attitude Era as a huge wrestling fan, but aged out when I got older. Recently, I got back into wrestling over the last 1 to 2 years, and your show has become a weekly watch. I really appreciate that, Gerald. Do you think we could ever see the Money in the Bank cash in during a gimmick match? I could see something like a ladder match with both opponents down and someone cashing in to take advantage of that opportunity rather than the typical cash in on a weekend opponent. Let me think about the rules. Yeah, I think so. Yes, because if it's a one-on-one ladder match and you cash in the middle of the match, now it's become a triple threat ladder match. The precedent was set at WrestleMania 31 when Seth cashed in that became a triple threat match. So if that match had been a ladder match, it would have become a triple threat ladder match. Then yes, 100%, I'm with you. If somebody could cash in during a ladder match, and they're probably really good at ladder matches because that's how they got the Money in the Bank briefcase, and then they could just climb up the ladder and get the belt, yeah, 100%. In this example, it creates two challengers because neither were pinned. Plus, it puts a lot of heat on any heel as they win. Yeah, I like it. Honestly, Gerald, I don't mind it at all. I mean, listen, whenever you win the Money in the Bank ladder match, I mean, and cash it in, you still have two opponents because by definition, you've beat a weakened opponent. So that, CM Punk is still sitting there like, you didn't really beat me. I just won an insane 30-minute match against Gunther. So, I think that, but yeah, I love that ladder match scenario. I think it's great. I would love to see it sometime. Maybe we will. I don't know. Let's keep talking about it. Let's keep watching the product. Let's keep speculating wildly. Let's keep remembering that everything counts. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast across all audio platforms, Apple, Spotify. Leave a comment, leave a rating, leave a review. Wherever there's something to fill it out. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Notsam Wrestling. Don't forget, we're putting up content every single day now. And we'll talk again soon here on Notsam Wrestling. Thank you, everybody.